So, what happens to a guy like I see this a lot sometimes. A guy might get some case money, and he may say, "All right, I got 20,000. I'm gonna get 5,000 to Manny, and hopefully Manny can make this 5,000 back into 20,000 in 6 months." Because sometimes you have unrealistic people who really don't understand
100%.
that. To invest it's a time game, and the longer it sits, the better it gets.
Right.
So what happens to that guy who gives you that 5,000, and then he blows his 15 in the club, and he come back to you 3 months later like, "Man, what's up?" And then when you go look at his joint and say, "Hey, the 5,000 it's probably going to even cost you like a little, like it might be 20% to take it out of this time," or what? I don't know what it would be. I don't know how it works. So what would you say to that guy? Would you tell him, "All right, here go your money"? Because I'm quite sure the same dollar amount doesn't go back at that point, because 6 months is not long enough, right?
So that's a great question. So I mean, the first thing, of course, that would happen would be education, right? You need to explain to him or her, what the pros and cons are of each account. And I would ask you, Reef, do you need this money 2-3 years from now? Is this retirement money? What's it going to be? Because if this is retirement money and you want to touch it before you're 59 and a half years old, you're going to pay taxes and penalties on it. Unless it's, of course, a Roth or something, then you're just going to pay a 10% penalty and stuff, unless it's held after 5 years.
Yeah, on a Roth, you're paying that 10%. Even if you pay it back, you're still going to pay the 10%?
Yeah, it's because it's a premature withdrawal.
Okay.
With this. So if you take it before you're 59 and a half years old, then you're going to pay a 10% penalty. Now, it's going to be tax-free, which is a benefit. Mm-hmm. And of course, Roth IRA does have a little caveat where after 5 years, you can actually touch a cost basis without the 10% penalty. But neither here nor there, there'll be
I don't
potentially.
understand what that means.
So what that means is in a Roth IRA, if you put 10 grand away and you're 6 years into it and it grows to 20, right? Mm-hmm. Your cost basis, what you put into it is still 10
so you
grand.
Can take the 10 grand
and
out.
so they'll allow a provision in which you can access the 10 grand free of the 10% penalty, with it and stuff.
But that's after 5 years.
That's after 5 years, with it and stuff. A lot of times I don't even like explaining that to clients, even with the Roth IRA, because it's like, I can touch it.
Yo, dog, on the 5th year,
I'm like,
I
man,
need
come
that.
on. I was like, stop that. So a lot of times you have to explain investments and how that works, right? So I say, Sharif, listen, you give me $1,000, okay? If I make 10% off that, which is decent, right? That's made you $100.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Are you doing cartwheels in the street? No. Okay. You give me 100 grand, I make you 10%. I make you $10,000. You excited about that?
Yeah, you're doing a little something.
That's doing a little something.
Doing a little something,
right?
Yeah.
So compounded growth is not based upon the return on your money. It's based upon how much money do you have. That's why the hardest thing to do is to make money. The easiest thing to do is once you have it, to grow it, right? That's why usually people with wealth keep it, right? And then people who have this money, like you just said, 20 grand, it's gone in a year or two probably. That's what normally happens.
Yeah.
What people don't, even when people retire a lot of times, unfortunately, they get into a situation where you're living off of 50 grand a year. You've saved up, you've done really well. I don't know, let's say you got $250,000, right? Every time. A lot of people be like, oh my gosh, like that's pretty good, right? But if you plan on living off of 50 grand a year, that money's gone in 4 to 6 years. But most people also too, what'll wind up happening is once it's there, once they start drawing from it, it becomes easier. They just, oh wait, I need it here, I get it here, I get it here. That's gone in like a couple of years. There's no discipline. So what I try to do with my clients is try to cultivate the discipline of contributing on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, on growing their monies, compounded interest over time, so that when you get to that point where you are able to take out money, we can also take out the monies on a disciplined basis.
Okay. So there ain't gonna be no, let me take 20,000 out today. It's gonna be more so whatever you're gonna have a budget. They're gonna have to budget whatever they wanna take out once they get to that 59 and a half. Now.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And that's why, unfortunately, a lot of people will continue to have to work until their 70s because they didn't have enough. And Social Security is, for people my age, so I mean, I'm 38 now, you know what I mean? Social Security is not gonna be what it is for my grandmother, who's 83.
No. Yeah, not at all.
It's just not. She can live off that, off a fixed income. But I wanna golf, like every day. I'm not gonna be able to do that on a fixed income,
So, in your business, so is yours based on, you guys' arithmetic is based on insurance or investments or both? How does it work?
So that's a great question. So in order to understand that, you have to understand, all right, the premise of being what a financial advisor is. So there's levels to this, right? So in other words, if somebody says that they want to get into finances, all right, the first license that they normally get is going to be what's called just a life insurance license, right? Life and health, that's what you're going to get. You're going to pass that and you're going to be able to write insurance, okay? Term insurance, whole life insurance, whatever kind of insurance. You're going to be able to do health insurance, disability insurance, long-term care, asset preserve. You're going to be able to do those kind of things, right?
New York does all that? You guys do disability insurance
all those
too?
things.
Like an Aflac, y'all do?
No, not health
that.
insurance. No,
Okay.
it's not like a Prudential or anything like that. I just deal with straight up money making. But some people will get into that realm to do that, right? And so, but that's the first step. Then the second step, of course, is like, okay, well, if you want to evolve or branch out your business, then you get what's called a Series 6, right? So your Series 6 is essentially going to allow you to write variable annuities and variable life insurance, right? Which is essentially investments in an annuity bracket, nutshell, okay? And then if you want to continue to evolve, then you get what's called your Series 63, which will allow you to then now do securities and mutual funds and investments like that. Okay, which is helpful, right? Then if you want to get to the next level, all right, and actually be called a financial advisor, then you have to get your Series 7. Now your Series 7 is ranked top 4 hardest exams in the world, right? So it's right up there with the CPA, the MCATs, the bar, Series 7, right? It's a 6-hour exam, that you're gonna get it. It's very difficult to get, with it. And I got it before they made it. They nerfed it. They made it easier now. They make everything easier now. It's not even like 6 hours
pity
anymore.
on idiots now.
Yeah, it's like they just make everything easier. I feel like everybody could do so. But anyways, once you get your Series 7, then you can officially be called a financial advisor. With it. And then you can also do like stock trading, you do those things like, but essentially the premise is you get to say you're a financial advisor. Okay. Then if you want to take the final step, right? And the final step is essentially to become your own fiduciary, right?
That's
and
like you're a broker. You can have people under you also, or?
So in a fiduciary means, what that means is, well, first the license is a 65 or a 66, right? And so what that means is that now you're not tied to a particular brokerage platform or a particular mutual fund company, right? So for example, for most people who have like their 6 or 63, they're tied to a particular company, right? They only can sell a particular mutual fund. I can only sell American funds, right? So that's a dead giveaway that they only have, like their Series 6 and 63, right? If they can only sell particular fund companies, right? Now when you get your 7, then you can have like a brokerage platform, right? And then you can have then you can start selling different investment funds and families and things of that nature, meaning that you can sell a Fidelity fund, a Deutsche Bank fund, you can sell, all kinds of different funds, right? Under a platform, which is great, right? Then once you get to the fiduciary level, this is nice because now you can actually essentially cut out the brokerage platform, charge your fee, right? And then be able to get into a bunch of no-load funds, which is ultimately where you want to have all your investments into. But you need somebody to help guide it. You need to have a diversified portfolio with those different things, because when you're on a brokerage platform, every mutual fund has like their own minimums that they have to get to, so it's hard to get to a diversified portfolio.
There's a lot of fees in that too, right? A lot of fees in mutual
Well,
funds.
it's not about fees. A lot of people get fee conscious. It's about value driven, right? But if you're in a brokerage platform, predominantly you're going to have to use A shares, which A shares takes 5% load up front, right? So if you do $100 a month, $5 goes to the cost of the fund, $95 gets invested. Now that's just on new money coming in. And so long term, it's not bad at all. But if you're trying to invest for 1 year, then that's not good, right? And then of course, if you want to say, I want to go from Fidelity funds to mainstay funds or to BNY funds, then it costs to get into that fund family as well. And that's the difficulty of it, right?
Gotcha.
So, but once you get to a fiduciary platform, you actually work with someone who's a fiduciary, that he can create now a portfolio for you with every kind of fund family that he wants with no extra cost to get in or out, with it. And it's really the best thing. That's where you want to be. To work with someone who's a fiduciary who can actually now give you an unbiased opinion, right? Because before I was at this point, right? Yeah, I was working with Mainstay or mutual fund, or Mainstay or American funds or Fidelity or different things of that nature and stuff. And so it was tough to have a diversified portfolio with those different things, because Fidelity funds are good, but not all of them, right? Their like ticker symbol, FAGAX is a fantastic ticker symbol, and it's a fantastic fund, and it is their best fund, but nothing else is really that good. Their healthcare maybe, with that, but it's like nothing else. So then you have to start asking yourself, okay, what can I do best for my client, and how can I justify? And that's why when I do the research for my clients and I actually build these portfolios that I build, not a cookie cutter thing, not something that's just, it's just 80, 20 or 100%. No, I'm actually building you a portfolio. I'm investing you in different countries, different asset classes, semiconductor ETFs, like all kinds of creative stuff. And I know that they're the best funds because I'm comparing them to all the different funds that are out there. And now I'm also showing you.
Okay.
And stuff. So there's a big difference. It's a dynamic, on that.
Okay, so semiconductors, that's like the hot thing this year anyway. I see that NVIDIA, whatever. NVIDIA. I see they really ran it up this year. They did kind of fantastic. I want to say they split maybe last year, and then this year they're pretty much back at the value that they were right before they split. I think they're around like 400 now, something like that.
So ticker symbol NVDA, with it, had a fantastic year. He's doing tremendous, with it. But it's also important to understand that investments, all in all, does not dictate a good investment. So in other words, if there was a house in a particular area, that was a decent area, but like the premium was so high, right? So in other words, like, is that a good investment? I don't know, it's too high. You're paying for over market value, right?
Because the hype
is up, right? But then again, if you see a house that's actually in like an area that's being gentrified or up and coming or whatever it might be, and it's still discounted, now you want to buy it, right?
So what would you think is a good semiconductor company now? Like, if it
the best ticker that I would recommend, because the semiconductor, right, are being used for all kinds of things. I think it's important to understand that that's what powers, self-driving vehicles. That's
everything,
every doggone thing, right? But the best, I almost don't want to give up the best, because that's privy to my clients.
Give me the third.
Give me the
third.
Listen,
go to the Patreon. I'm gonna get the best one for you.
I'll tell you what. I will give a stock pick at the end of today. That if you wanted to do, I will give one stock for one particular company.
Okay.
But other than that,
one sector.
Yeah, a little bit late, just for some people who want to invest and stuff like that. But it's like, obviously investing involves risk, so don't put your mortgage on it. And I don't want anybody to like call me up and be like, this guy told me to do this and everything.
Well, they'll come to me first.
Yeah, Sharif, what he's talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but listen, there's a lot of good companies, but you got to put them against one another. So you have to understand that there's all kinds of like Invesco, there's iShares, there's all kinds of companies that all have different kinds of funds that are out there. You need to look at mutual funds and ETFs and just compare them against one another and compare ETFs versus other ETFs.
Okay.
And that's really the best way to do it. But NVIDIA had a great year. Tech really had a good bounce back year. The average tech last year was probably down about 40%. So you have to understand, even Amazon was down, even Apple, all these different companies, and Alphabet, which is Google. A lot of people don't know that. So, but a lot of these things were down, but you have to understand that is the best time to actually buy.
That's what I was about to say. Like, so it's funny about people, right? They only want to buy stocks when it's at the highest.
When it's going up.
Yes, that's when they want to buy. I think it's psychological too. They want to buy stocks when it's at the highest. But those same people, let's just say, it's not the same. Some people only want to buy designer when it's on sale. So it's funny, like, you know what I mean? So you won't spend $102 for a polo shirt. When Macy's say they on sale for $60, though, you go buy 3. But when you see the stock is on sale, you're like, oh shit, I want my money back. It's the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. But that's how you train. That's how most people are trained. Like, most people don't understand that when there's blood in the water, it's when it's time to boogie. You gotta dive in it. Most people, and I learned it the hard way, because I learned that when real estate crashed, I had a guy that wanted to give me a house. I had 2 houses I turned down. They both were on like 20th and Susquehanna. One was on like 19th, one was on 18th. 2 separate different people. And they both was like, man, I don't want to deal with this house shit no more, Harry, you take it. So I was like, shit, I don't want to deal with it no more, you take it. Like, I don't want that shit neither. And if I could go back in time, I could smack myself every morning when I get up and think about what I turned down. Because those houses easy are now 200, 250. Yeah. Even with all the crime and how bad Philadelphia is, those houses are growing exponentially, and I think about it all the time, because all I kept hearing every day is how real estate was there. And at that time I was in my 20s, and I thought I thought that everything was going to just stop in 2008. I never knew 2012 was coming, and a guy that was actually in investment would call me in 2012 and say, "Hey, Reef, housing is back," and I'm like, "No, the fuck it ain't." He like, "I just came out of a meeting. Housing is back," and this is a guy that's really connected. And I thought he lost his mind. I thought he was trying to like set me up. So I was like, "Get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
2013, housing was back.
Yep.
But he was telling me a year ahead to tell me, "Hey, get your ass ready, get in the game." And I'm like, "Nah, it ain't back. It ain't." Plus, I was coming off the brain surgery anyway, so I couldn't do that anyway. But I'll never forget that call because he told me, he was like, "Sharif, it's back. It's back. I'm telling you, it's back." And I was like, "Can't be back." Man, the money I missed out on that one. You know, this is at the time where you could go to certain investment companies. It's funny, so you was at the 555. I want to say down the street from 555 is another building. It was a bank in there. It wasn't called, it was a hard money bank. When you go onto the first floor, start with A, I can't remember the name of it, but when you go on the first floor, it's right here to your left. I did a lot of business with that company. I forget the name of it, damn. They wound up getting bought out, but they were actually selling portfolios like 40 cents on the dollar. And I didn't want none of it. And man, did I mess up, man. Man, I messed up major.
Yeah.
But yeah, right there in that building, something on that Sea Line Avenue. I want to say the next building up, I think it's called the Continental or something. I forget the name of it, but it's right across from Chili's, I want to say.
Okay.
So whatever that building is right there, it was a hard money bank on the first floor. Most people didn't know what it was, but it was a hard money bank right there. And they were just like giving it away. Like, just take these houses. I'm like, nah. When I should have been like, give me more.
Yeah.
But yeah, you learn. So yeah, when things are going bad, it's probably really going good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when markets correct in any kind of market, it's going to drop anywhere from 15 to 35% in a given time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to know. And when that happens, you know, you should rejoice. I mean, because that's your best opportunity to make money. I mean, millionaires will be made off of the recession that we just went over. You know, and I was calling the bottom in October months ago. You know, with it and stuff, and people didn't believe. They're like, "No, it's going to come back down. The S&P is going to go down to 3,200, 30." I was like, "That's not what the chart's reading," because I'm also a technical analyst and a full-time stock trader.
Okay.
So like, I'm also looking at these different things. I'm like, "Nah, like that's not what I'm saying."
Okay.
You know, with that and stuff. But you know, it's just tough. It's tough to go against human nature, which is to protect what you have and don't lose. Try telling someone who's got $100,000, the market just crashed, they're down 30%, so now they got 70. Try telling them to be patient. You know,
But I see them doing it in casinos all the time.
Listen.
So it's like, it's whatever you geared towards thinking.
Whatever
yeah, I'm telling you, I see it all the time.
I mean, that's 100% loss.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we talking about?
And you can't
What
do
are we
nothing
talking
with it.
about?
Yeah, you can't do nothing with it. It's totally gone. So investors, when they come in, would you rather see a younger, older, or it doesn't matter? When you come in, you're going to tell something to them, and it's never too young, never too old.
Yes.
For a guy like you. So it doesn't matter.
Don't matter.
So if you're watching this, you're not too old, you're not too young, you're not too dumb, it's not that you don't have no money. Like, what's the lowest amount somebody could come to you with?
$50 a month.
$50
That's
a month.
Bare bones minimum.
Bare bones minimum. So $50 a month, they can start figuring it out and build it up.
But honestly, if someone came to me like that, you know, the first thing that it sounds like they'll probably work on would be actually like their budget. Their credit, right? Because I think most people, the money's there. They just, you know, they don't.
They got 10 streaming services. They eat out every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem that I see, unfortunately, especially people in our community and stuff, is cars. So if you're looking at your budget, if you're looking at your monthly budget, right, the largest percentage amount. Geez, hear my
house
language.
and car. That's house and car.
Yeah, but like the thing is though, is that I always tell my clients, you shouldn't be spending more than 10% of your monthly income on your car. And people are like, oh, my car note's way lower than that. I said, I didn't just say car note. I said your car note, your car insurance, your gas. Also, what a lot of people don't understand is that you should be budgeting 10% of the value of your car per year in the event of expenses occur, right? So if your car's worth 30 grand, right? So that means, of course, you should be budgeting $3 grand per year, right? So like $250 a month. But a lot of people, they're not going to do that. They're, I can't do that. And I was like, well, then that's what's going to happen when you need a new alternator, new tires, and you got to put it on a credit card for $2 grand or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, and now you got to pay 10%.
I said 19%.
19%?
Well,
Where?
Well, actually, for me it is
29.
Like, no. For me it is like 9% because I'm a credit union type guy, and I've
credit cards though, man.
Yeah. I'm a credit union credit card type guy. So at least
I get it. PSECU, they're great.
Yeah. I'll deal with them before You'll catch me with a Capital One or a Bank of America
Yeah.
or a GM, and it never happened in my life. Well, it happened when I was younger,
Right.
so it never
Right.
happened now.
But a lot of times too, it's just about like really educating them on what their options are, right? So like there's other ways to borrow money, and part of the reason like when I get clients, it's how to use money properly, right? Other people's monies, as long as the interest rate is favorable, right? Using credit cards to your advantage, right? Credit cards are not bad, just people don't know how to use them,
Yeah.
and they get caught into trouble, you know, with that. And it's like once you know I explain to them, you know, what it actually entails and what it actually looks like, they're like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. So if you have a $10,000 debt, okay, on a credit card, not a credit union credit card.
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, one of them
But a
Capital Ones.
One,
Oh yeah, you're
right?
dying. Yeah.
So let's just call that 30% interest, right? So let's quick factor that in. The APR, that's $3,000 per year that you're paying in interest, right?
That's not going nowhere. That's just for them. That's just
it,
for them. Yeah.
right? And if you want to figure out how much you're paying per month on interest, divide it by 12.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that's
Do
crazy.
something, yeah.
You know this. So I mean, it's so that's where people get a lot of trouble. So it's like, you know, you look at that and you know they're only putting maybe $300 a month on that. So only $50 is really going towards the principal. And that's where the problem comes. So yeah, so we would probably fix up the interest or fix up the budget and really figure out kind of what makes the most sense, you know, and find the money because it's out there, and then just see if you're actually serious about it. You know what I mean? Because if you're not serious, let's not waste either of our times. You know what I mean? Because my time is finite.
So who's one of like, not the person's name, but like what's like one of the best stories you had? Like when you had somebody, did you have somebody ever come in and they started out low and then in no time, well not in no time, but over time, you got the chance to help them grow to different levels? Like you had a couple of those type stories?
Absolutely, man. So without naming any names, but you know, I've been doing this for 15 years. 15 years I've been doing this, which is crazy, right? And I've still have clients to this day that were still with me since day one, which is crazy. And they're just so close to my heart. You know, it really means a lot to me because they believed in me, you know, when I was literally just starting out, you know, and so I'll do anything for them. But I mean, I've had people who literally, like, I've had nurses who, you know, who were just like making their regular 50, 60K. Because, you know, like that first session before you get to RN status, like you're not making much money. Then all of a sudden you get to a point where like you jump to like 100, 120. Like, oh my gosh, this is great, you know? And I've had people absolutely get to a point where they can retire well, they can divorce well, because that happens, you know, with it and stuff. But, you know, being able to buy properties, I think one of the more exciting ones too, I actually had this client, 2020. I had this client, and this is how life insurance can work for you, excuse me, right? And he goes to me, permanent insurance, like whole life. I don't talk about the different kinds of permanent insurances that are out there, but just permanent insurance, right? So in a particular permanent insurance policy that New York Life has, right? He goes to me, he says, Manny, I need to talk a business question with you. I said, what's up? He says, I want to open up a hospital in India. So I said, okay, sure, but here's my problem. Number one, I don't want to use all my cash, because if I use all my cash, then I'm cash poor. And I don't know if you know anything about the health industry, but the health industry, you don't get paid for months. You know, stuff. So so he didn't want to do that. Plus he still had to pay for, he lives in the United States, but you know, plus he still had to pay for staff. He still has to do those different things. So he didn't want to do that, right? He didn't want to lease it, because if he leases it, he'll never own it. They could increase the lease. Like it's you know, the way it works overseas, it could be far different from over here, right? Number three, he didn't want to work on trying to get a bank loan for it, because number one, it's an international venture, which they're going to be a little bit reluctant to it. But even if they are
the
up
terms
for
would be probably crazy.
The terms of it, the interest rates, the monthly pay, and plus the whole underwriting process could take months before it could actually happen. He could lose out in the deal. So I said, bro, listen, you got X amount of dollars in this permanent life insurance policy of cash value that you could borrow from tax-free at a 5% interest rate. All right, you dictate the terms and how you pay it back and stuff. So when you start making more money, you can actually pay it back at your own leisure, you know, with it. You'll still have the cash on hand where you can pay your staff, you can do all these different things, and you can get it in 2 to 3 days, no questions asked. He was like, are you serious? I said, yeah.
So you had to pay it back at 5%. That was it.
5% interest, man. And then he pays it back.
Is it still 5% or has it risen?
It's actually, the highest I've seen it go is 5.5%. And that was when interest rates went through the roof over this past year.
Okay.
You know, it's at 5% though now.
Now how much is a permanent policy? How much is that like?
Well, I mean, that's going to be vary between, you know, between your age, your health, and the face amount and stuff. So I mean,
so let's just say it's somebody 20 years old, and they want, well, let's say it's 25 years old, and they want to come get a permanent life insurance for like $200,000. How much is something like that? All good health across the board.
Yeah. So I mean, I would look at two different options, right? So I wouldn't present a universal life policy because a lot of people think universal life is whole life, but it's not. So universal life is just cheap permanent insurance with no cash value. Really, there's some, but it's not really for the taking. The death benefit doesn't increase either. Then there's a traditional whole life where it's kind of like a 30-year mortgage, where it's like less expensive, it's longer term, you build up equity, it's just slower. You know, with it, that would probably run him at that age maybe like $100 or something like that. You know, maybe 125. But then there's also a custom whole life, which would be what I would recommend to anybody who's like 40 and younger to do, because it's essentially you customize the time period in which you pay it off with it, and then once you pay it off, you have it for the rest of your life. The cash value will grow. Also, the death benefit.
What's that like in money wise?
So in that same situation, we gave that same example, right? I mean, you're gonna be looking at probably like double the premium, right? So if you're looking at $250,000, like you just said, a 25-year-old, a traditional whole life might be like, you know, 100, maybe $150, something like that in that ballpark. Custom whole life will probably be about 3.
So, and then
for like 15 years, and then it's paid off.
So at 15 years it's paid off, and then after 15 years they can borrow against that policy?
No, they can borrow from it like year 2, year 3, whenever there's cash value.
Year 2, year 3. To get to the whole 250, it had to be at the 15-year mark.
So the $250,000 is the death benefit, right?
Yeah.
So that's what people will receive. That's what your beneficiaries will receive upon your demise.
Minus whatever you didn't pay back.
Right, but also understand that the death benefit is increasing. Most people who converse about permanent insurance, they'll say something like, the death benefits don't increase over time. Like, how does that make sense? I'm like, I agree with you. That's other companies, right? There's only 2 real companies that I would ever recommend to get a permanent insurance whole life policy from. That's New York Life and Mass Mutual. I wouldn't recommend really any other company, you know that. And because I'm a broker and I can provide any other company's policies, I know that. Now I use New York Life just because it's the best price. It's been around for 177 years, the most prestigious financial insurance company ever, blah, 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 you know, with it. And also too, I remember very specifically, year 4 of my business, all right? I had this person and I was recommending New York Life versus MetLife, right? Like, oh, I like Snoopy. My dad had MetLife, I trust it and stuff, whatever. Okay, I think it's gonna go. And I'm just like, New York Life was maybe like $10 more expensive, right? And they were like, they went with MetLife. And I was like, fine, whatever. So I gave them MetLife, sold them MetLife. And then years later, MetLife winds up getting out of the insurance business. They want to sell. MetLife don't even sell life insurance. They just deal with investments and retirement.
So what happened to her policy?
So what happens in that transitory period is that it gets bought out by whatever company buys it out. And so the terms may change or they may not change, but you are not guaranteed for that. So that illustration that you thought you had, that you thought was growing and stuff was looking,
not around no more.
It might not be. Snoopy let you down.
Snoopy let you down.
He hanging out with Charlie Brown.
That damn Snoopy.
Him and Charlie, they doing something.
Damn.
So that's something to really understand. That's why it's so important to deal with a company that's been around. So I know there's a lot of companies and all kinds of insurance companies been around for 50 years, 60, 70, 80, whatever. I was trying to tell people, like, if you're getting a life insurance policy, don't you want to deal with a company that's been around for longer than your parents been alive or your grandparents been around? You know what I mean? Because chances are it's going to be bought out by another company. Chances are there's going to be some sort of changes. Like, just get with a reputable company that actually has the valued benefits. And those other companies that I was conversing about, they don't have a death benefit that increases. They don't, have the guarantees that like a New York Life will provide, where the cash value and the death benefit grows, right? So you have to look at it from that perspective. I think something that makes more sense too as well is that when you look at life insurance kind of like from a housing perspective, right? So in other words, you buy a house for $100,000, right? And it's worth $150,000, so you sell it for $150,000. Do you get $150,000?
When it's all said and done, though, you still have to pay some taxes and all that.
Forget about the taxes. They're going to subtract the mortgage that you owe.
Oh, whatever you owe.
Of $100,000, right?
Yeah.
So, like, why in the world would somebody say, like, oh my gosh, like, permanent insurance, I want both. I want cash value and death benefit. Like, well, you can't have it all if you took it, everything. That's why it's important that both of them grow. So then you can say, okay, if I don't use the cash value, at least the death benefit still grew to $300,000 or $350,000. But then if I do use the cash value, right, it'll just subtract from the death benefit.
Now, but you can pay that cash value. You can pay that back though if you.
Yeah, I position it in my client portfolios as your own personal bank in which you can borrow from tax free. That's how I position it.
So when you see that shit on like Instagram, hey, you want to do what you just said is what they be doing, but you're actually explaining how it works. Because sometimes when guys do it, they're talking so fast and they feel like they're just bullshitting you all the time.
No.
But you're saying that's how you actually do it.
That's actually how you do it. But you also want to be with a company that,
reputable, that's going to be around.
Exactly, and that has a product.
Yeah, you don't want to be the people who was in that bank over there in San Francisco that closed down. You don't want to be those people.
Yeah.
But
yeah. You don't want that.
This is what I want you to do. I want you to tell people how to get in contact with you, what's going on. We're going to do the chart. We're going to do the board thing, but that's going to be on the bonus. That's either going to be on the Facebook or the Patreon. So we're going to do the thing with the board, but you guys won't get that for free. I want to start feeling more from you guys. I need y'all to start tuning in more and start, talking more and being in the comments. I need more from you guys. So yeah, we are going to do the thing where he does a demonstration, but that's going to be on something else though. So he's going to tell you how to contact him, get with this man. Consultations are free.
Absolutely.
Consultations are free. Have a conversation. Get yourself some insurance. Talk to this man. He got some good plans for you. It's all yours, player.
Yeah, I think the best way, my name is Manuel Santiago III, so it's Manuel, last name is Santiago, and I am the third, so you're gonna want 3 Roman numeral I's. Put me in Google me, and look up my page, look me up on sec.gov, you'll be able to see all my credentials and all my licenses and all those different things. That's very important. Anybody who you trust to do with your money, you should be able to Google them and look them up on the sec.gov page, because that's really important. Otherwise, you can call me on 717-368-8607, and you can text me, call me. I'll get back to you within 24 hours, and we always start with an introductory phone call. That will be how we start anything. I'll see what's on your mind. I will tell you my process, how I work, how I like to do things, and then we'll move forward from there.
Well, folks, as Manny just did his Mike Jones impersonation, I hope you got the number. But if you don't worry about it. We're going to put it at the bottom. I know they tell me don't do it, but we're going to put it right there, right there, right there. You'll see it. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Sharif Hankins with Just Conversations.